And now,
ladies and gentlemen,
please fasten your seatbelts.
Welcome to PreneurCast.
You know, business cards being swapped, beers being drunk.
Can I say a nasty word? Can I say procrastination?
With Pete Williams and Don Gosher.
how well did that go down?
Talk about that entire thing in a very another rant and soapbox episode if we want to.
Visit us online at PreneurMarketing.com.
Hey everyone, Pete here with Dom Goucher. How are you, buddy?
Very good, sir. Very good.
Awesome. This week we are talking about increasing your items per sale.
Ooh. Always a good topic. Always a good topic.
Absolutely. It is one of the key 7 levers, so I'm excited to discuss it. But before we do, as usual, what's been happening? You're back in the UK again doing some consulting?
I am indeed, sir. I am joining the commuters this week. Just understanding how the other half live and making me realise how much I enjoy living in Spain.
Be very careful, mate, because I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this right now on their commute, during their commute to the office.
My sympathies are with you. I join you in your struggle.
Fair
Right,
enough.
you, sir? What's going on?
Lots going on. Just kind of, the last week or so with Easter and Anzac Day here in Australia is a bit of a long weekend. It's kind of been a bit crazy. So catching up with a few projects and bits and pieces. The usual good high quality content continually being pushed out on the blog. So if you, again, are new here, welcome. If you are old here, welcome as well. But hopefully you are a regular reader of PreneurMarketing.com as well, where we put up the more detailed essays. And the most recent one this week, which I think is definitely worth a read, is all about risk reversal. So it's we cover 3 different ways and strategies to increase your opt-ins and your conversions with actually putting risk reversals in place. So things like guarantee, money back offers and stuff like that. So I won't kind of reveal too much, but just go and check out that essay on the side along with everything else we have going on at PreneurMarketing.com. So that's kind of been, I guess, the focus this week, as well as actually working on a few new sales funnels, which we might even talk about in a couple of weeks' time.
Cool. I'm really liking these in-depth articles on PreneurMarketing.com, by the way. Last week in the last show we talked about the guarantee post, and now the risk reversals is a great thing because it goes beyond just the guarantees, and that's what I'm liking about the in-depth stuff. You're taking the time. Sometimes it's a guest post from a subject matter expert coming in and talking about these topics to spend a bit more time. Sometimes even, they rival sometimes even the depth we get into on the podcast.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're aiming, because, with the podcast, obviously, it's about you and I and our experiences and our rants and raves, based on evidence and our own testing. But with the essays, what we're trying to do is give examples beyond our own world and really evidence-based, data-driven research and advice. So if we're going to talk about something, we're going to go off and actually research and go, okay, here is the statistic that scientifically backs up this strategy or this tactic, and this is what someone actually has done. So it's really full of really rich case study evidence kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different to the way we kind of present the information here on the show.
Yeah, and again, that's really good because it's a balance between, as you say, the podcast is a lot to do with the real world stuff that you and I do, and the businesses that we run and the projects that we're involved in. And you could say to a point that some of it is opinion. A lot of it is based on our experience and our evidence, and we can give examples from that side of the real world. But yeah, the articles they're a lot more data-driven, data-backed. There's some excellent research going on behind them. And they're great for people to take away and study and go follow up on some of those sources. So I do think it's a great series that's going on at the moment.
Cool.
So yes, definitely, folks, pop over to PreneurMarketing.com. And as always, link to everything we talk about in the show will be in the show notes, which includes, he segues very neatly across. Pete, how are you getting on with your listening and reading?
Been a bit crazy this week. Haven't sort of quite finished anything that we've mentioned in the last couple of weeks. Got a couple of minutes to go on The Art of Learning, which was a book we recommended a few episodes back, and everything else is kind of up in the air at the moment. So what about you, mate? What you've been the commute? I'm sure with the commute you've been consuming a bit more content. Any sort of good books you've listened to or read recently?
Yeah, I mean, given my my new direction these recent months, I have been going very high level with my reading, and I've been reading a very cunningly titled book called The Strategy Book by Max. I apologise in advance, Max Mckeown. Link in the show notes, so I don't have to say his name again. Excellent book to give you a solid grounding in strategy. Now, I did that podcast a while back, just show on my own, about strategy versus tactics. But this book really is great because, first of all, it gives a proper grounding. It's a bit like one of your articles, actually, Pete, in that it brings together a lot of resources out there. He's done the research, him and his co-authors have done the research, brought their experience, also reference a lot of external texts, articles, books, to give you, if you want to go and read on a topic in more depth. But they go through, and it's a book full of frameworks and checklists, so you would love it. It's a great recommendation for the audience to go and pick this thing up, because if nothing else, it actually fits really, really well with the 7 levers, because it makes you look at what you're doing. The book it's got some like little workshop sections in it. It makes you look at what you're doing, makes you question the kind of status quo, makes you question how you operate, how you go through your day-to-day stuff, which is what we do in the 7 levers. We try and get people to see things differently and see those opportunities to grow by those 10%. So it's a great book just to make you look at things differently, even if you think, strategy is a bit too high level for me, a bit too big and highfalutin or whatever else. It is pretty much an everyman book. It's written in very sensible language, very straightforward stuff, lots of easy checklists, and a lot of background. It doesn't really expect anybody to know anything before you go in. So it's a great introduction to strategy. Cool. Definitely recommend it. Pete, if you want to, I think you'd enjoy it. But definitely for the listeners, I recommend The Strategy Book. And again, link in the show notes. I actually have been reading it on my iPad. I haven't been listening to it, so I haven't checked up yet to see if it's available on Audible. But most of the ones that we've mentioned in recent shows are available on Audible. And Pete, what do we know about Audible?
They are a fantastic service that support the show. So hopefully listeners out there, you have been or are going to support Audible in return. And if you head over to audibletrial.com/PreneurCast, that's AUDIBLE trial.com/PreneurCast, you can get a free trial of their service, which means a free audio book of your choice. You can choose anything from, some of that sort of, what is it? What was the grey book? The one that everyone went nuts with, 50 Shades of Grey. You can get anything from 50 Shades of Grey all the way through to obviously the business and strategy and marketing books that we recommend on the show here. So you can definitely check it out. So if you are out, driving to the office, you can use this time to not only listen to PreneurCast, but listen to audiobooks while you're running, while you're doing the dishes. You can use it in a whole different matter of ways. So audibletrial.com/PreneurCast.
And again, link in the show notes, folks. Okay. With that, why don't we get over to our core topic for this show, which is increasing your items per sale.
So we're talking about increasing your items per sale. Now, Pete, what does increasing your items per sale do for you, and why is it important? Why does it stand out as one of the 7 levers of business?
Well, to answer, the second part of that question first is, there are 7 key things that drive profit in the business. Now, obviously, as we've talked about before, it's traffic and there's opt-ins and the conversions and all those sort of elements. And one of them is obviously how many items you sell a person when they transact with you. Obviously, the more items you can sell somebody, the more items they have in their shopping basket, in their shopping cart online, whatever it might be, obviously that generates more revenue for your business, which at the end of the day drives and increases the profits. So it's just one of those very easy things you can do to increase the revenue for your business, which obviously directly affects that profit and the bottom line. So it's something a lot of people probably don't think about. They're too busy focusing on getting that first sale. They don't think about how easy it can be to get that additional transaction or that additional item per transaction. Because if you think about it, someone's already opened up their wallet and they've gone through all the the heartache, so to speak, to trust you and believe you and take you up on that first offer, it is very easy to do the McDonald's, would you like fries with that type questioning to increase those items that they accept at the time of purchase.
Yeah, now let's not skip over that, because this is the interesting thing, and in some ways, it's one of the things we like to do is highlight the fact that you've seen people doing this stuff. You just don't think to do it for yourself. So your example there of in McDonald's or some other fast food restaurant, but McDonald's is famous for it, you are often asked, would you like fries with that? That is an additional item per sale. You might hear that in many, many, many different places, and I'm sure you've got some great examples of how people can do this and other places where you'll see it. But you will see this around where people are doing this. So there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't in your business. It's not an icky thing, which is something that people might think. Perfectly reasonable, and it can even be seen as very, very helpful, can't it?
Well, absolutely. I think if you position it correctly, which we can talk about that, different ways to position it and make these additional sales, you can be seen as helping someone and giving them a much better solution. And I think the thing to think about as well is that when it comes to increasing the items per sale, just like every lever, all we're aiming for is a 10% increase. Every cycle, every time we go through the 7 levers and we cycle through that, all we're looking is a 10% increase on where you were before. So if right now you don't make any additional item sales per transaction, maybe you're an online retailer selling information products like an ebook or something like that, and you don't have an offer on the thank you page where you can offer them an additional item or anything like that, or someone walks into your retail store to buy a pair of shoes and you don't offer them some socks or some inserts or some shoe cleaner or anything like that right now. So your average items per sale is simply 1, because you sell 1 item per sale. Then to increase that by 10%, we're going to 1.1. We're not trying to get heaps of people, just 1.1, which means only 1 in every 10 people that you ask, would you like fries, have to say yes for you to achieve your goal. It's a very easy increase. It's not saying, every single person has to now buy 2 or 3 items. It's just every person, or every 10th person actually, has to buy a second item. So that, again, the freedom from knowing that it's only a 10% increase we're aiming for, gives you that freedom to actually take action. Because I think for a lot of people, they get so scared and overwhelmed with, I've got to double something, I've got to triple something, I've got to quadruple something to be effective, that causes paralysis. Whereas simply saying, look, if you just make an offer to everybody who transacts with you of, would you like fries with that style offer, then all you need is 1 in 10 people to say yes and you've hit your goal. And that's very, very easy to do if you do it well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get back to that. You started to give some examples of what an additional item per sale might look like, because I think that's another thing that people struggle with. When we talk about the 7 levers and we identify each one, people always have friction points. It's very traditional. It's not unusual. It's very common things that we hear people talk about with each lever. And we like to overcome them. The first one is always, oh no, it's a huge step. And that's why we always focus on that 10% increase, because it's not difficult. And I think your example, like 1 in 10 people have to say yes to that extra item. It makes it really, really easy for people to visualize and achieve, which is great. But the other friction point that people have is, well, give me, what would that look like in my business? You gave 2 examples there. One was an online thing, and it was a little mechanical. It was how you might do it, not what you might do. So can we give some examples of what people could give as additional things? Maybe some examples from the real world that you've already seen as to what people might give as an extra item.
Yeah, well, look, there's sort of different categories and stuff I'd love to cover as well. But to sort of, I guess, give some just rough examples, if you've ever gone and bought a new car, you go into the dealership and you buy your car, and then they send you to sit down with someone else, usually a very pretty lady, to then sell you window tinting and special car mats and the extended warranty and all those extra sort of add-ons that sort of happen after the sale. That's a perfect example of the car yards and the dealerships doing that increasing items per sale process very, very effectively. That happens all the time. McDonald's with their would you like fries with that scenario. Claude Hopkins, the sort of godfather of advertising and marketing, who wrote My Life in Advertising and Scientific Advertising, two great books that are a must read. They're sort of from the 1920s, 1930s, but they are a very easy read and really are kind of the pinnacle Bibles for advertising and marketing. And in one of the books, I can't remember which one, unfortunately, he talks about, when you go in and you buy a sports coat, and now obviously probably not as regularly as you would have back in the 1920s and 1930s, but you go in and buy a sports coat from a menswear shop. And, you buy a sports coat for $100 and then they'll turn around and sell you a tie that matches, or a sweater that matches, or other things that go along with that. If you walk into an athlete's foot shoe store, which, as an example I use all the time, it's while you're sitting there trying on your shoes, it's, okay, here's some insoles to help make the shoe last longer. If you, change over your insoles, it actually will increase the life of your shoe, which would obviously increase the investment you get in there. Some shoe cleaner to keep the shoes cleaner. There's those sort of examples. The other day, I went and got a new bike fit. So, with my triathlon bike, I've sort of got a little bit stiffer in my old age. I had to get the seat readjusted and the settings and all that sort of stuff done. And as part of that process of the bike fit, I was upsold or, sold into some cycling orthotics. So some arch supports to go on my cycling shoes. That was a very easy additional item that was sold. My old masseuse used to, give me a massage and then would suggest bath salts or special ointments that he'd try and sell me after every single massage that he'd pull off the shelf and talk about how this could actually work. And quite often he'd actually use that during the massage to sort of pre-sell me on it, which is a whole other tactic we can talk about, where you actually, embed the upsell through the actual sales process. But he'd deliver the massage, use special cream, and then say, hey, didn't that feel great? Well, hey, you can use this at home yourself. Buy this cream for $15. So, there's just, 2 or 3 very basic examples of ways you can increase those items per sale that happen all day, every day.
They're really good examples, very, very general ones that people I think can relate to. I just want to pick up on a couple of things out of that, though. One of them is that a couple of times you said upsell. Mm-hmm. And upsell is one of those words that has got a bit of a bad reputation.
Yeah, I think not only does it have a bad reputation, but I think it actually has a very misunderstood reputation too. Because I think a lot of people, when they refer to adding additional items to the sale, which is obviously what we're talking about here, and this particular lever, they refer to anything as an upsell. Any extra item I sell, that person is an upsell. And, technically by definition, that's not true. This is the category thing I kind of alluded to earlier. So, an upsell is generally selling someone a more expensive item. So they come in and they buy product A, and then what you try and do is after they buy product A, you try and sell them product B. And this is very, very prevalent in like the online information marketing space. You'll go and you'll buy an ebook for $17. And on the thank you page, they'll sell you something for $47. And if you buy that, then they hit you with another offer that's $97. And if you buy that, they hit you with a $547 offer. And they are continually upselling you in that true definition where they sell you something more expensive along the way. And don't get me wrong, it is very, very effective and it can absolutely work if they're positioned properly. But that is what a technical upsell is, when you are selling them something that is more expensive. The other categories which are worth chatting about and talking about that I think are also interchangeable too. So, for example, an add-on could be an upsell, in that an add-on is something that makes the original product better. Price point is irrelevant. So you can have an upsell, which is an add-on. So you are adding on additional item to the product at a more expensive price. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use my cycling analogy here. If I had a bike shop, that you go into a bike shop and I will go and purchase a speedometer, like a speedo that gives my speed and my cadence and that sort of stuff. While I'm cycling on the road, I can sort of track and measure some stuff. Now, obviously, what they can do is after I agree to purchase that item, they can then try and sell me something that's more expensive that makes that product better, though. And that would be something like a device that would track my watts, like how much power output I'm doing. The actual crank of the bike, and I'm getting technical here, but can be very, very expensive, quite often much, much more than the actual device that tracks all the data. But that's something they could turn around to make my speedometer work even better, or my little bike computer even better, because it gives me more data. That's more expensive. So that's a way you can do an add-on that is more expensive. There's plenty of other ways that, you could almost argue that McDonald's fries are an add-on, in that, it's going to make the meal more enjoyable by having some fries with it. So that's the whole idea. An upsell is more expensive and can be any sort of product that's being sold after the fact, whether it's related or not. But an add-on makes the first original purchase better and is price point irrelevant. Do those two first categories make sense, Dom?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they are kind of drilling down into very good ways of thinking things through, coming up with ideas of what you could sell.
If you're in the information space, for example, and you sell an ebook or a course of some description, your add-on on the back end could be swipe files. So let's say you sell a course on publicity. How to get publicity could be a course that you sell. Your thank you page, item per sale increaser add-on could be a report or another ebook at whatever price point is irrelevant, that has a whole bunch of press release templates or swipe files. So they get the course on understanding how to do publicity and, the concept of writing a press release and getting in touch with the media and all that sort of stuff. But then the add-on is, hey, we can make the use of this course much easier for you by buying this swipe file and templates you can use when writing a press release. So that's the kind of way that an information marketer can use that add-on style additional item sale.
I have to say, I tend to gravitate towards the add-on as the most positive way that I can communicate this idea, because it comes back to this idea of consultative selling, being helpful to the customer and adding the value, not just taking more money off them, but it's a value exchange, right?
Yeah, and I think that is sort of what I kind of alluded to very briefly earlier, is that the best type of sequence where you are increasing the items per sale is where you actually are working to consciously make sure that everything you offer makes the original purchase better. So, what you could do is you could do a publicity course, then, you sell them a add-on, which is this, swipe file resource. And then if they take that and you want to try a third item per sale offer, you then offer them a done for you service or done with you service, where you say, look, you now have the resources to actually understand this and do this long term. But if you want to get started quicker, pay this premium price, and one of my in-house team will work with you for your first 3 press releases or whatever it might be. Davey J, who we had on the episode previous to this one, we have a program where we do outsourcing done with you. So it's a product or a service, really, where we'll actually work with people and they can actually have a VA hired by us and trained by us, but employed by them. So we have our ads that we know work and get virtual assistant applicants by the dozen. We have a process that they go through to self-select and put their hand up. We then we do hand over some of those pre-selected applicants to the people we're training. And then once they hire the person they want, they then come back to us and go through our training and recruitment process, our training and improvement process. So it's like outsourcing done with you. So what we could do, and we actually are working on this to give a real example, is we've got our outsourcing course, and then on the thank you page of that, we're going to straight to sell an upsell. It's going to be a higher price package, but it's like, okay, you want to hire a new VA, you now have the course to understand how to do it, how to train them and manage them long term. But if you want to get started really quickly and not have to go through the hassle of hiring, come and join our Done With You service, and we'll do all the heartache for you. And then all you have to do is worry about working with them once they're trained up. So that's kind of how you can sort of have the Done With You service as an add-on, because it makes that first solution they're trying to solve, or the first problem they're trying to solve with a purchase, even better and even easier.
And that's why I really like it, is that people may have come to you, the information marketing business is the easiest one, I think, to describe this into, which is why, I like when we give examples from different contexts, because, some people can't map one to the other. But this idea that somebody comes to you with a problem or is looking for something, athlete's foot is just the same. They come in, they're looking for some training shoes or something like that, and genuinely, the advice that having or replacing the insoles in a training shoe can make the shoe last longer, give you the same level of support for longer. That's a really helpful piece of information that they may not have known. And it's actually not a lot of money to buy a spare set of insoles. So you're not taking a lot of money, a lot of extra expenditure, but you're increasing your items per sale. And things like that, where you're educating the customer. I'm sure that when the guy sold you the orthotics for inside your shoes, which honestly, if somebody had said to me, just randomly, when you're cycling, you need arch supports inside your shoes, I'd probably have raised at least one eyebrow. But I'm sure that he, explained it, and you're at a level of your own personal education. You're already going in there talking about having your bike adjusted because you're competing at a certain level. So you've got a bit of information, and he talks to you on a level and says, "Look, this can help you." It's really easy. You go, "Oh, thank you very much." Put that on the pile, and it can be that simple.
Well, absolutely. And those two examples, the insole examples, are beautiful examples of the next kind of category, which is a downsell, where you're selling something at a lower price point. Now, traditionally, I think, in the internet marketing community, which I know a lot of our listeners are from, traditionally, the term downsell has sort of been used when someone doesn't take your upsell. So you try and make them an offer, and if they don't take that first offer, you then offer them a downsell, which is a cheaper version of that product. And that kind of is one definition of a downsell, something that is a cheaper alternative. But traditionally, the Claude Hopkins example, where someone buys a sports coat and then you sell them a tie or a sweater, makes much more sense as a downsell and is much more effective. And this is exactly what Claude Hopkins writes about in his book, in that, he talks about this of increasing items per sale in an intelligent way. If you sell someone a $200 sports coat, turning around and telling them and trying to sell them a $110 sweater is actually much easier to do, because they've already justified $200 over here for the sports jacket. A $110 sweater, by comparison, looks cheap because it is a reduced price from the original investment. So it's a downsell, so it's more likely to be accepted, as opposed to just trying to sell them at the sweater by itself at $110, and they say, "Yes, I'll buy a sweater," and then say, "Oh, hang on, let's go and buy a sport jacket now for $200. Like, you are asking people to spend more money and reach further into their pocket. It's just the perception is changed significantly when you offer downsells as opposed to upsells. And I think, generally speaking, downsells have a much higher conversion rate. Now, I'm going to get these numbers slightly wrong because I don't have them in front of me directly, and I haven't actually asked permission to tell this, but a friend of mine recently did a launch. You may know his name, but I don't have permission to tell this story, so at least I'll give you the numbers that I've heard, but I won't go into detail. The course was $997. Did a launch of it to an internal list. It was a home study course, and sold a couple of hundred units of that product. So I did very, very well for an internal launch, a couple of $100,000. And then on the thank you page, they offered a downsell solution. So rather than sort of saying, okay, you bought a $1,000 product, let's try and tell you something for $2,500, like most people do. He said, okay, I'm going to do a downsell offer here, and offered something around $147. So people who already spent $1,000, and then of the people who saw that, they were then presented with a downsell offer for an additional course for only $147, which looks, by comparison, ridiculously cheap. And got, I think from memory, a 68% take-up rate. A 68% take-up rate. So of the 200 people who bought the original course, just under 140 of them, or what's that? What's 68 times 2? Yeah, just under 140 of them bought that additional offer. Huge, because it was a downsell price point. And I think that is really, really important. And, other examples today, which didn't happen, but, I would have absolutely taken it in a heartbeat, is we had a gardener come to our house today and kind of clean up the Jumanji jungle that we had in our backyard. And it took about 4.5 hours to clean it all up. And, if he turned around to me and said, look, for an extra $50, I will, re-tan bark the garden area, which obviously has, gone to, oh, well, not as nice as it was, previously, I would have said, by comparison, an extra 40 or $50 to do that, no problem at all, happily sign that check. He didn't make a second offer to me, but that's a very easy downsell that he could have made. He obviously, did a great job with the guard and all that sort of stuff, but that's a perfect, easy little downsell, mind you, he could have made to, again, get a little bit more revenue out of me on that visit to our house today.
Yeah. And it's those things, and I guess that's the next thing to go on to is how you can present these. But just to check back on that 68% thing, because that's quite astounding. People are already paying $997 for something. Was it a complimentary or an add-on style sale, that one?
No, it was a complete cross sell, which is another category.
Wow. So that's, that really is quite powerful then, because 68% for a relatively unrelated thing, but just kind of while you're here, here's this other thing.
You can argue that it was in the information business building space, so that you could argue that with a bit of a bow, it was an add-on because it kind of helped grow their online business, which is what the primary course was all about. But it wasn't a direct related product. It was more of a cross-sell, which we can talk about as well.
Yeah. But my point is, it's like if it's not done, even though it wasn't done as an add-on, it wasn't done as a complementary, as a this will enhance your use of this thing kind of thing, and they still got that 68%. It shows you the power of just simply making the offer or asking the question.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's all about just making that offer of some form. And, as I just sort of alluded to, they offered a cross-sell. And what a cross-sell is a product that's not actually related to the original offer. It's something completely different. For example, a very bad example, but one you can think of in this scenario is when you go to the grocery store and you buy your vegetables and your dairy products, whatever it might be, then you get to the checkout, and then at the point of sale, they've got all those chocolates and confectionaries and really bad magazines about celebrities doing silly stuff. That is a form of increasing the items per sale. And those are, you could argue, cross-sells. You're buying your meat and potatoes and suddenly you're buying chocolate. That is a cross-sell. It's something that is, not really related to the first. Yes, it's food, but it is not really a direct related thing. You're not going to put chocolate in with your mashed potatoes. It's not something you would actually do to make that potatoes better, like an add-on would. It is a cross-sell. It is something different.
And that makes sense. That's literally, funnily enough, over here in Spain, they've started doing that as an actual ask thing. The people on the checkouts have like offer of the day, and they literally, as everything's gone through the checkout, you're putting things in the bags, you're trapped, you stood at the end putting things in the bags, and they'll reach around and show you whatever the offer of the day is. It might be a pineapple, it might be a cake, it could be anything. But again, they probably get a better than 1 in 10 hit rate on that. Yeah,
but they do it here very strongly at the petrol stations. They have, 2-for-1 chocolate bar deals. And as you're, paying for your petrol and they're swiping your credit card, they're like, would you like, a free chocolate bar when you buy one today, or whatever the saying is that they use in that particular day. And, you'd surprise how many people go, do you know what? Yeah, I will. Because it's a special deal, but it's not related. Chocolate bars and fuel don't go together. That is a perfect cross-sell that happens.
I've seen it actually as well. There's the automated checkouts that you get in some supermarkets and stores where you go and scan your own things. And on one in a particular newsagent in the UK, their checkouts have that offer of the day on the screen as you're going to check out. So even though you're doing it yourself, there's no one there to speak to you. The machine asks you the question, hey, would you like a random chocolate item with that, with your newspaper? So that's a cross-sell. And I think that does segue quite nicely into really the wrap up for this, which is, so we've dotted throughout this conversation ways you can do this, but can we just kind of grab them together in one chunk, different ways that you can introduce these extra items to people?
Yeah, well, I think, there's a number, depending on how you're selling. This is the thing. It all comes down to how you're actually doing the sale. Obviously, if you're selling information products and you're sort of selling ebooks or home study courses online, then, you can easily make this offer on the thank you page. So someone, goes, I think everyone's probably experienced this at least 3 times, where you purchase a product, and then on the thank you page, it's like, hey, thanks for buying, your login details, your downloads, whatever it is that you purchase is on its way to you. But before you go, check out this additional offer. And it's a very easy way to do it. There's no real high-end technical service or solution you need. All you need is just on the thank you page, make another sales offer with another purchase button. You don't need to incorporate the checkout where it's, one click upsells, anything. Like, yes, that helps conversions a little bit, but realistically, someone checks out with PayPal, they go to a thank you page. If you make another good offer, they'll check out with PayPal again. So that's a very simple way to do it. If you are using...
Yeah, I just want to highlight there as well, because some people, again, one of those friction points is,
true.
Oh, no, it's really complicated to add 2 items to my shopping cart. Insert complicated technical stuff. And I think you really put a nail on the head there. It's like they've bought something, you send them to a page that says thank you for buying something, and you offer them something else, and you send them back through the process. So it's just another button. It's no more complex than that.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, for the first cycle of the 7 levers is just put a really basic offer on the thank you page. And then next time you cycle through the 7 levers framework, you can decide to do a different offer, or, spend that time, second time round, working out how you can make it one click, all encompassing, type of thing. It's up to you, but like, don't let the technology stop you from going forward. If you have an e-commerce site, sorry, to give another example, is, as you add products to the checkout, you can have pop-ups. We do this in some of our e-commerce projects where, you go to buy a headset and you add it to your shopping cart. We have a pop-up that pops up saying, hey, did you know you'll probably most likely need to get a connector cable for that headset to work with your phone system? And we make that sale as part of the checkout. Obviously, Amazon do this really, really well. You see that all over their sites, buy this with this and other options of package deals and things like that. If you ever bought a domain off GoDaddy.com, you would have absolutely experienced their upsell sequence. That's another way to do it. If you're a retail store, I've spoken to this before. If you are a retail store where you have people trying on outfits, if you sell clothing, well, when they go into the dressing room to try on a dress, well, why not have some jewelry right next to the actual dressing room, and you can actually say, here, try this necklace on. It goes really well with that dress. And it's a very subtle way for them to experience that additional item and get to see it. If you're doing consultative selling, whether it's, in a bike store and you're kind of going through that process of selling a bike, you can absolutely have a checklist of sort of, okay, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be riding triathlons. Okay, well, you need to make sure you have a bike, you need a helmet, you need a track pump, and you sort of actually educate them on other things they need to make their cycling, training, and racing more effective. And you can very easily show them other options that they should be purchasing as well. If you are quoting on products, whether it's a phone system or it's a decking or it's anything like that, going through a bit of a checklist of saying, okay, here's the things that most people choose. You came in for one thing, here's 4 or 5 other things I'm just going to ask you about as my usual check sheet. So it doesn't look like you're selling hard. It's just like, this is the usual process, and you're enlightening the customer on other things they may not be aware of.
Cool. There's some really good examples there spread across lots of different industries and types of products and services and things like that. I think that was really helpful just to wrap it up in one place. And it is, the big thing that I'm taking away from this, and I hope other people are taking away as well, is, first of all, let's go back to the basics of the 7 levels of business. We're looking for 10%. We're looking for a 10% increase. And at the moment, many of you may not even be doing this actively. You may not be actively looking for that additional sale. So getting that 1 person in 10 to say yes is going to be probably one of the easiest wins you've ever had. You just ask in one format or another. And that really is what it's about. All those examples really do come down to, one way or another, it's let people know there's something else they can have in addition to the thing they've either just bought or are just about to buy. That's really what it is, right?
Absolutely. It's just about making a very subtle, supportive offer for additional items that they may choose. And you just want that slight 10% increase, as you said.
Yep. And don't go overboard. Start with something relatively easy, like the add-on, where it's complementary to the item. It's, a lower price point than the item they've just bought. And don't try and be clever about it. Just say, hey, look, you've bought this. Like, the headset example is a great one. You bought this headset, you're probably going to need a cable.
Yep.
That's it. Simple as that. And that works in almost every environment really easily, whether it's online or offline, people talking to people, whether you just have a sign or a box of things next to each other. It's another way of doing it. Buy one of these, might need one of these.
Well, and if you're selling things that people would use more than one of, package deals. I think one of the very first ways I came across this being used was someone who was selling muffins at a weekend store. And it was, buy 3, get 1 free. It's one, you buy one like this, or you buy 3 and get 1 free. So essentially, you pay for 2 and you get the third one for free. Or however you want to word that sort of promotion. That's a great way to get people to buy more. And you've actually gone from if you buy 2, get 1 free, for example, if that's the offer, you're going from someone buying 1 item, people buying 2 items. That's 100% increase, not a 10% increase, 100% increase instantly like that. And, you could easily, depending on the product you sell, stop selling 1 item. It only comes in packs of 2. Depending on what you're selling, what the price point is, it's a very easy way to force that increase is just by changing the packaging of how you actually deliver and sell the product.
Now, that's very slightly sneaky and possibly also quite advanced for some people. But definitely, it's all this. The simplicity is there, and that's the other thing is don't try and do something. Don't try and make a massive leap when you can make a small step, and that small step can make a difference. Which again brings us back to the core message of the 7 levers.
Absolutely.
So, folks, as you know, each show we run a competition of one kind or another. Recently, what we are running a competition on is feedback from you. We enjoy your feedback. We want to get more of it. And so, as a little bit of an incentive, we're looking for you to comment on PreneurMarketing.com. Anywhere on the site, any of the articles that Pete's recently mentioned, some of these fantastic articles that we've been putting out, could be a post from the podcast episode, whatever it might be. And Pete, we have our first winner.
Yeah, so every week we're going to be giving away a personally signed and posted copy of my first book, How to Turn Your $1 Million Idea into Reality. So this week, Greg E, he didn't put his surname in the actual post, so I won't sort of be too public with it, but Greg E wrote a fantastic reply, almost like a cheat sheet, to the essay that I wrote recently called How I Plan to Give My Son Eli $1 Million. And it was basically the essay, for those who haven't read it yet, at PreneurMarketing.com. It's a pretty in-depth system that I'm putting in place for my son so that one day he will be a millionaire. And it's not about inheriting my money or anything like that. It's a system for him to teach him the wealth foundations that I believe are important as someone living in society. So definitely check, if you've got kids, check this out. Or even if you've not got kids, you can absolutely apply it to yourself. And it's a very good framework. It's a little bit in depth, but what Greg did is he wrote a bit of a cheat sheet for people in Australia. Saying he's 10 times lazier than Pete. So this is his no-brainer, idiot-proof implementation plan. And he sort of wrote it down in sort of some bullet point steps, which I think is fantastic because I couldn't go to certain depths in my essay purely because obviously I'm not a financial planner and I can't say certain things. So I had to kind of leave a few things out for people to investigate. Now, Greg, as a commenter, can obviously write fundamentally whatever he wants. So he wrote this post up with a bit more, or feedback, with a few more in-depth suggestions that I didn't want to do. So I really appreciate that, Greg. Thank you so much for contributing to the community. And I think it's a very, very helpful takeaway for the readers and community members. So Greg, you have a book coming your way. Look out for an email from our team, which will be asking for your address. I'll sign that, personalize it, and post it to you this week. And if you're interested in either, giving your child $1 million, firstly, go and check out that post on the site. But secondly, if you're interested in getting a free copy of my book and helping contribute to our community, make sure you do head over to PreneurMarketing.com. Check out, anything, whether it's, a blog post, whether it's the show notes. And if you leave a comment that we think is of value, of interest, made us laugh, whatever it might be, every week we're going to pick one commenter and send them a free book. So please, contribute to the community. Obviously, it's all about what we're doing here is sort of helping build the community of like-minded marketers. So that's what it's all about. And this is just an easy way to bribe, encourage, and support you guys for supporting each other with the comments.
Absolutely. And as always, folks, we do ask that we want your feedback. We want to hear from you, however you give us that feedback. Do remember there is also the audio comment you can make on the site if you visit PreneurMarketing.com. There are lots of other ways that you can leave feedback as well. And one of the ways we would really appreciate is however you're listening to this, because we know you are listening to it potentially anywhere at any time. And if you are listening to it on a device like an iPod or an iPhone or a Android device, whatever you're listening to it on, probably there's a button somewhere on that says I like this, or I recommend this, or I want to share this. Take a second in about a minute's time when the show ends. Take a second and press one of those buttons. Just let somebody else know about this show and just share. Because that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to reach people, build a community, and help people like you grow their business through the tips and information that we give across. So share that with somebody else. Share the love and let somebody else know about the show. So, Pete, just to wrap up, what are we talking about on the next show?
So on the next show, we've got Joe Cross, who's an Australian documentary filmmaker that most people may be aware of from the documentary Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. So we've got Joe on here to talk about a whole bunch of stuff about how he runs that empire that is now Reboot Your Life or Reboost Your Life. And he's got like a range of fruit juices in stores here in Australia. He's got the DVDs. He's speaking around the world. He's got some new documentaries coming out. So we kind of cover a lot of ground with Joe about how he's built the business and built the brand and built the movement, how he runs all of that, how he originally marketed and promoted the documentary. So it's a really good conversation about a whole range of things about, starting a movement and managing a movement.
Cool. Looking forward to that, because that's one of those kind of from scratch to huge stories, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's Joe's done a great, I think everyone should watch the documentary for its own content, let alone just understand who Joe is and how he's built the empire. But I really do believe in his message as well, which is really cool.
Excellent. So, folks, we will see you on the next show. Thank you for joining us this week on the show, and speak to you all soon.
Bye.
You've been enjoying another fine episode of PreneurCast with Pete Williams and Dom Gocher. Make sure to hang out with the boys online at www.preneurmarketing.com or drop them a line via PreneurCast@preneurgroup.com.